Now, when the internet was created, people assumed that it's going to be just like the telephone. Like, you can pick up a phone and you can talk to another person and no one is listening in, and you have the ability to say whatever you want. Like, the phone company is not going to terminate the connection because you spread misinformation about politics or whatever. Because people genuinely believe that a free society. I mean, all these companies are coming from the United States of America. They have the First Amendment, which is not just codified into the Constitution, but it's also a mindset. It's what the people there love. It's enjoying the idea of liberty, which is different than the Soviet Union or the Nazi Germany, that they can actually say and communicate whatever they want. And on the internet, you now have like these platforms that are coming up, some of them even funded by the American government or getting tax cuts for existing. And they are promising free speech. Believe it or not, Jack Dorsey himself on Twitter, it was like, well, Twitter is the platform where if you feel disenfranchised, you can have a voice, right? So unlike the previous era where you have the mainstream media that would have the biggest megaphone, now you can go on Twitter, you can say whatever you want, and you can make your own audience. Like if you're saying stuff that resonates with people, they're going to listen in. And that was the mindset. That was the beginning of the internet. Like, these platforms promised freedom of expression. They promised to uphold human rights, and they promised free speech. But as time goes on, we notice that these platforms start censoring. In the beginning, it was like, okay, well, we're censoring slurs, right? Like, you don't want another PewDiePie bridge incident. Like, we're just going to censor things that are harmful and upsetting. But you can still express your political opinions. You can still express your ideas. And once that became normalized, once people became used to the concept that censorship is now okay with certain limits, got its foot in the door, then it started expanding. And now it's like, okay, well, Alex Jones himself, like everything, every single thing that Alex Jones says is harmful because years ago, he said something very offensive, and even though, like, today he's not saying anything about that, he's just too dangerous to be allowed. And Alex Jones gets banned from all these platforms, and it happened within a couple of hours. Now, what's interesting is the cope, right? Like, how could people justify that? I mean, we live in a free speech society. If Alex Jones is that offensive, I mean, surely people will just not subscribe to him. Surely people will just look away. And the cope was, well, these are private companies. They can do whatever they want. Because, unlike the phone company, you know, they do benefit from protection on what's being placed on the platform. However, they can also editorialize to a certain degree if they want. So, people like Alex Jones or people that the platform just doesn't like, they can be booted off, right? Like, they have no obligation to serve people. And then from that point forward, the censorship just got worse and worse and worse. It was to the point where it's not just political concepts were banned, but even talking about serious topics, unless you're affiliated with CNN, unless you're affiliated with MSNBC, you weren't allowed to express yourself. So, for instance, if you're talking about a news article that contains someone getting raped, you will see that content creators would now use the word grape in order to not trigger the algorithm, in order not to have the bots and the AI that's monitoring all conversations, make sure that it doesn't hear you talk about the sensitive subject. So now everything was like abortions, sexual harassment, like all these topics would be suppressed by the algorithm. So from a free speech platform, from a platform that only censored a couple of words, now entire concepts are difficult to articulate. You can't talk about abortion. You can't talk about global warming. You can't talk about these things unless they have the correct opinions, unless you're already vetted to discuss about these issues. I even remember when COVID first started, right? Like, if you had any type of opinion about COVID and you weren't authorized by YouTube, your channel would be having their videos demonetized on the subject. Because it was the same concept. It's like, well, we don't trust you to have the correct opinions. You're not having the correct politics. And this is where the platforms are at now, right? Like, there are very strong algorithms in place which direct the flow of conversation. There are channels that are vetted and they can say whatever they want, and in some cases they can even break TOS. Like, my perfect example with this is, if you go on YouTube, there is a video where CNN is showing an alleged video with children dying from a gas attack in Syria. Now, if I find a child dying in front of my house, if I go out and I see like a car crash or something and I'm filming it and there is a dead child, And I'm doing exactly 100% what CNN is doing. Like, I'm not editorializing, I'm just filming it. Maybe I'm even making a video. It's like, look at the horrors and the atrocities of what can happen if you're drinking and driving, or if you're speeding, right? So I'm making like a public announcement, and I'm showing like similar images to what CNN was showing. Of course, my channel is going to not just get demonetized, but I would probably get booted off the platform for the shocking images, right? So again, like certain channels have privileges. Usually the corporate one, the established ones, the ones that seem to work with the governments and showing the correct news and the correct editorializing, while citizen journalism is being cracked down heavily. Now, what's interesting is that in the previous election, there was a story which allegedly, if more people heard about it, it could have swung the elections. We don't know how true it is, but I did see polls and graphs which show that if people were aware that the Hunter Biden laptop story was legit, then they would have voted differently, or they wouldn't have supported the Biden administration. And Zuckerberg is coming out, and he already said this before, and he is saying that, yeah, we actually had to censor this because the FBI was asking. So all of a sudden, you do not have like this concept of our free platforms can do everything they want. All of a sudden, you have the concept of, well, these platforms were pressured by the government. And we get to see what happens if you don't bow into the pressure. The European Union is now threatening to block Twitter from within its zone. So the European Union doesn't like the concept that Elon Musk allows for free speech on his platform. The European Union also freaked out when Donald Trump was doing an interview with Elon Musk. So yeah, like that. Their main concern is controlling the conversation. And it's not just like, oh, we want to eliminate hate speech. No. They want you to have the correct opinions. Like when you log on Twitter, like the correct news articles, the correct opinions have to show. So that's what they're interested in. We see the CEO of Telegram getting arrested in France. The CEO of Rumble also said that he had to pull out of France because, again, like these governments are focused on exactly doing what the Soviet Union was doing, and Nazi Germany and fascist Italy and China and Russia, which is controlling. And as I said in a previous video, what I find absolutely bizarre is that if we find out that someone in Russia got arrested for criticizing Vladimir Putin, or someone in China got persecuted because he compared Chairman Z to Winnie the Pooh, we find that to be abhorrent, and we find it to be so lucky that we do not live in those countries. Like everyone would say, wow, like that is horrible. Like, is that thing happening in China? But when it's happening in Germany, when it's happening in France, when it's happening in Britain, all of a sudden it's like, well, what, are you a bigot? Like, why do you support hate? Why do you support blah, blah, blah? You know what? Why do you support criminals money laundering on these platforms? Why are you against regulations? So I find it so bizarre because it's like, it's the same concept, right? Like someone gets arrested for shit they said online. But if it's in another country, it's awful. If it's here, then it must have a good reason. So that is like one of the things. And the other thing is like I've been contacted by a German subscriber. And what he told me was quite interesting. Basically in Germany back in the day, and this is like 2018 era, they had like this event, like a circus. And they were making fun of politicians there. Like they were having, you know, this big balloon of Angela Merkel, very satirical, the same way like the Trump blimp that you had in London. And it's like people making fun of politicians, making fun of their appearance, like caricaturizing them. And you know, yesterday I had the video showing how a German is getting into trouble because apparently he made fun of a green politician that's promoting queer ideology and other good and progressive things. But he made fun of her weight. And now the German police is investigating him, right? So, like, at the time, Germans that were seeing all these caricatures and all of this humor done at the expense of politicians, they were like, well, yeah, like, this is what a civilized country does. You know, it shows that we live in a healthy democracy because freedom of speech exists and you can make fun of your politicians. They couldn't even conceive, like, what's happening in Turkey. It's like, what, so someone made fun of the Sultan and now they're being persecuted? It's like beyond the pale. It's abhorrent. Like, why can't they be normal? And now Germany is trying to become more like the states that people were criticizing in the past. But what's interesting is the journey, well, the alleged journey that Zuckerberg is having. A couple of weeks ago, after the Trump assassination, which as you can see is almost completely memory hold, like it's not even mentioned in the media, it's almost like it didn't happen. But Zuckerberg goes on in this interview and he says that when he saw Donald Trump getting up and saying, fight, 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 he felt American. Like Zuckerberg himself, like he never felt so much nationalistic pride. Like when he saw Trump getting up, like he said that that is masculine, that is manly, that is, so like strong endorsement to Trump. Which begs the question, like, how does he feel about censoring Republicans for so long? And he's basically saying now that he regrets cooperating with the US government. He should have showed more backbone and blah, blah, blah. And he's talking about COVID-19 and how for months he was asked by the government to censor certain things that were even jokes or satire or anything that was going against the government regulations. And then he talks about how the FBI warned them about the potential Russian disinformation thing, and it was the Hunter Biden laptop, which he suppressed. But then it turns out to be true, and he regrets doing it, and blah, blah, blah. Right, so here's my take. I think he's downplaying the role of involvement between governments and these social media companies. It's not just the FBI, but as we saw with the Twitter files, and as we're seeing right now, the European Union is the biggest one interested in censoring and making sure that people online, they have the correct opinions and they don't spread like this thing which is misinformation that we can't really articulate what it is. But again, it's like the government decides what is information, and anything that's against it is probably missing. Like the Hunter Biden laptop story was treated as misinformation, right? And it turns out to be true. And again, no people are held accountable. No politicians are forced to resign. No one is stepping down. No one is losing their job over it, right? But if you're an average citizen and you're tweeting emojis or misinformation in Britain, you could actually end up in prison. So, like the interesting tier system where there's no accountability for the people that turned out to be wrong. I have yet to hear a single fact checker being sued for malpractice. But for some reason, the average Joe, he's got more of a responsibility. Like, the average citizen has more of a duty than the average politician, I guess. The thing that I believe, though, with Zuckerberg is that his platform and Meta itself is in decline when it comes to users, when it comes to people. Like, they notice that they're overtly censorious, that their policies do not align with the interest of the user, that they're harvesting way too much data from the users. I don't think that there has been a single case where a government asked for the personal information of a user, even without a court order that Meta didn't follow through. I would want to know if such a case exists, right? But like basically the government just asks. They come in and it's like, yeah, we found this guy and we don't like what he is saying about refugees or whatever. We don't have a court order, like, but we would like it if you guys would give us the info anyway. Is there a single case where Meta said no? Is there a single case where Meta said, yeah, come back with a court order and then we're going to discuss it? I don't think so. Maybe there is, but this is the impression that users are getting, so they're moving away from Facebook. Now, what's interesting with Mark Zuckerberg is that he is a CEO. So the role of a CEO is to be a diplomat. He's basically like the representative of a company, and his job is to make the company look good. And as we saw during the Trump administration, he would have dinners with Trump at the White House. He would reassure Trump, and he would say, no, like our platform is a common, it's just a platform. Like we're not editorializing. We're not being unfair to Republicans. And now he's apologizing that, oh yeah, like we shouldn't have banned the Hunter Biden laptop story. So he has this duplicitous nature, which is required in order to be a PR spokesperson, a CEO for a company. Again, like your job is not to spread information. Your job is not to clarify the facts. No, your job is to make the company look good and to say whatever is required in order to make the company look as appealing as possible in the eyes of the public. So him going after Biden is not throwing the Biden administration under the bus. I think he is just weighing in his options. If Trump wins, then it's like, well, see, I mean, I'm on your side now. I realized that I was wrong in the past, and now I'm going to do whatever is required. Like, please don't tax me. Please give me the same benefits. Please blah, blah, blah. But if Trump loses and you have the Biden-Harris campaign, I mean, they will still collaborate, right? Like, I'm pretty sure that nothing will change. And this is just like him saying, well, I was just trying to get the public to use my platform more, and you guys want the public to use my platform because, like, we're working very close together, and every time you asked me to ban something or suppress something, I did. So, yeah, it's like... So this is what I think is happening. It's basically like him just saying what needs to be said in order to play both sides. I do not trust Zuckerberg at all. I do not trust his platform. I do think that it's a failed business model at this point. Like, there's other platforms that are more appealing to the young generation, while Facebook is considered to be the boomer platform. And part of it is also due to the huge invasion in privacy that Facebook has with collecting private information from people, selling it to third parties, you having the risk of all of your information being leaked if Facebook gets hacked. It's like these things that are unappealing, even to young people that normally don't value their privacy, but like when it's so intrusive, when it's so over the top, like Facebook is, yeah, even like people who don't care about privacy will be like, ugh. And there's also nothing fun. There's also nothing edgy on Facebook. Like nothing newsworthy or groundbreaking is happening on Facebook. I mean, say what you will about Reddit, but even that at this point is a platform that's more advanced when it comes to getting some type of news, not all type of news, because the Reddit censors are up in arms, making sure that only the correct news get pushed on the website, which is something that I'll talk in another video. I already discussed about this enough. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I'll see you in the comment section. Take care.